Hey everybody, in this video I want to talk about the subjective nature of real estate appraisals. I did a different video on real estate appraisals, the gist of which was that a lender will only loan up to the appraised amount of a property. So if an appraisal comes in low, they will not loan you the full amount that you've offered, and it could torpedo the deal. So in this video, I want to touch about how subjective they are in the fact that you could have three different appraisers try to appraise the same property and they could come up with very different amounts. So as your realtor, it's my job to advise you when you're making an offer on a property. I will do what's called a comparative market analysis, and I will say that the amount you're offering is a fair price compared to other comparable homes nearby that were recently sold. And that will give you some assurance that you will be able to complete the deal. But somebody else could come in, an appraiser could come in and pick completely different homes, and it will appraise for less. Let's look at a quick example, see if I could illustrate this. This is something that I did for a property in Ardmore. It was listed for a really high price, $213 a square foot. I've done enough of these analyses to know right away that that is a very high amount. So what I did is I pulled other similar sized and nature properties in Ardmore, and I dumped them into a spreadsheet. And let's look. So 213. We had one other that was closed. Oh, let's go look over here. Okay, so look at this wide range of prices: 152, 201, 142, 130, 130, etc. So what you're going to find as you drill into these, it's the ones that are lower price, they're in poor condition, they're not updated, so forth, and the higher price ones are going to have updates, amenities, and so forth. So to skip to the end, in order for this to appraise, an appraiser would have to come in and just cherry pick. There's only like a few, very few, that even came close. So they'd have to go in and just search out and say, I'm going to pick this one, and then I'm going to go pick this one. This is back in December, and then I'm going to pick, and here's another one back in November. And they would have to ignore all these others. So in theory, for this to appraise, they must say this is a super awesome property. All these others are inferior, and only these are comparable. And I don't think there's a very good chance that they would do that. What I found is that these ones for like 200, 198, even 189, those are all comparable properties. So if they chose those, the gist of the matter is that I would say it's more likely that this would fall in the 190 to 204, 205 per square foot. So the range, I would just say more than likely this would appraise for in between here. But it is a very subjective process. I will go through and put a lot of work in and study photos and read descriptions to pick the ones that are like this. Somebody else could be in a hurry and just say, well, I'm going to pick the three most recent, and it'll, if it appraised for 165, and it'll appraise for 250. That's not likely. But the other thing is they might pick a whole nother group of properties. I just don't know. Everybody has their own process. So let me get back. And people have different motivations. You could have somebody who is aggressive that wants to get a deal done, so they will kind of go out of their way to pick higher price comparables within reason, I'm sure. Or they might be really conservative and say, well, I'm going to protect the interests of the bank and make sure they don't loan too much money, and they could come up with a lower amount. There's all sorts of reasons. We don't know. But the gist is, no matter how good a job that I do in giving you an estimate for the property, somebody could come in and appraise it for a lower amount and the deal could still fall through. That's why if a property is going right up on the edge of the appraised value, it's very high priced, and it would be a stretch, I make sure that I advise, as I did in this case, that if you want to put an offer in on this property, it's very likely that it will underappraise and you are going to have to cover the difference. So if you can't afford to lose your due diligence fee, if you can't afford to pay extra money to cover a loan shortfall, then you might want to look for a different house and not make an offer on that one. So that's the nature of the appraisal business, and I do not want anybody to ever lose their due diligence fee because of an appraisal. So if there's a risk there, I'm gonna let you know. So I hope this was helpful to you. If you'd like to discuss it more, feel free to contact me. I am Mark Schweikert with eXp Realty, and I'd love to hear from you. Thanks.